If you haven't done so already, make sure you download Global Player, where you can listen live to LBC, catch up on any shows that you've missed. And I believe Mr. Abbott may have one or two podcasts on there you can listen to as well. Coming up at 1, it's the brilliant Clive Ball. But next here on LBC,
yes,
it's the equally as brilliant. Of course it is. It's my Uncle Abbott.
Dean, I counted them, and then I counted them all back off again. The Home Secretary's dream of incarcerating the poor and the dispossessed in a disease-ridden hellhole has suffered a catastrophe. A lefty woke disease has rid her of any joy she might have left in life by causing the Bibby Stockholm to release its guests over fears of mass death, even though that appeared to be the whole point. She's going to have to fall back on strangling kittens for some light relief in the interim, to cheer herself up. Poor dear, she's been through a lot of disappointment lately. In other news, the Tories appear to be taking your money with one hand and gifting it to their other hand. And we find out what it takes to enter the House of Lords. That and more coming up with me, Nick Abbott, after the new news at 10 on LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, the Home Office has been forced to move 39 asylum seekers off the Bibby Stockholm barge after the discovery of Legionella. Ministers say it is a precautionary measure and no one has become sick after the bacteria was found in the water supply. Labour Chair of the Home Affairs Select Committee, Dame Diana Johnson, has told LBC there are questions over when this was discovered.
The tests for this were done on the 25th of July, as I understand it, and the Home Office didn't get the results of those tests until, I think, after they'd started to move people onto the barge. So there are some questions there about proper processes being in place, because we want to make sure that when people are on barges or in hotels or wherever they're being held, that they are safe.
Detectives investigating the suspected murder of a 10-year-old girl say 3 people they want to speak to may have left the UK. The body was found at a house in a village near to Woking in the early hours of Thursday. Members of the RMT union have announced further strikes which will affect the August bank holiday weekend. They'll walk out across 14 train operators in their rout over pay, jobs and conditions on the 26th of August and the 2nd of September. Well, meanwhile, Health Secretary insists that the government has made its final offer to junior doctors on the first day of a 4-day strike for them. The use of strip searches will be the focus of a review into the treatment of women placed under arrest in Greater Manchester. Former Victims Commissioner Dame Vera Baird will lead the inquiry following several complaints. Greater Manchester Police has previously denied any wrongdoing by its staff. The region's Mayor Andy Burnham previously told the Newsagents podcast the claims need to be properly investigated.
From my point of view, it's answering that question, are kind of women safe when they're in the custody of the police? In my view, they are, but whenever a case like this arises, you have to really be sure that you're looking into all of the issues involved.
And you can hear the full episode on Global Player. The Mayor of the West Midlands says he remains laser-focused on rebuilding a historic wonky pub destroyed by arson in Staffordshire brick by brick. Andy Street says the perpetrators messed with the wrong pub. In the city, the FTSE 100 has closed down 94 points at 75.24. The pound buys $1.26 and €1.15. LBC weather: showers for the northwest and Wales tonight, dry and partly cloudy elsewhere, and a low of 10 degrees. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Daryl Jackson.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Well, let's get back to it.
A dam in southern Norway partially burst on Wednesday. A dam. This is following days of heavy rain that triggered landslides and flooding in the mountainous region and forced downstream communities to evacuate. Flooding in Norway and neighbouring Sweden has carried away sheds, small houses and mobile homes, with officials warning that more is yet to come. People were seen standing on a bridge as they watched caravans being swept away, crashing into the bridge and being crushed under the weight. Scientists have long warned that as the world warms, extreme storms will produce larger amounts of rain in bigger bursts. This will not affect you if you don't believe in science. Meanwhile, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece and Croatia are all being ravaged by wildfires in recent days and weeks. In a stark contrast to the extreme weather in northern Europe, temperatures soared across Spain and Portugal this week as the two countries boil under their third heatwave of the summer, as huge forest fires raged across Portugal for the fifth successive day. Spain's weather service warned that the average temperature across the country could hit a 7-decade record. This will probably be the hottest 5 August days in 73 years, says the State Meteorological Agency, with almost the whole country under red weather alerts. Experts say that recurring heat waves, which have been getting longer and more intense, are a consequence of climate change. The fires caused by that will not hurt you if you have decided to believe some bellowing numpty on Facebook who says it isn't real. Meanwhile, a bushfire near the Croatian coastal town of Šibenik quickly... Is it anything close to Šibenik? Have you heard? A bushfire near the Croatian coastal town of Šibenik quickly spread on July the 13th, fueled by strong southerly winds. Another fire started on July the 25th near the popular tourist city of Dubrovnik. In Cyprus, a forest fire erupted on August the 6th in the north city of Limassol and quickly spread, prompting evacuation of 3 communities. None of this should concern you if you think that fire has been in existence for, well, hundreds of years, so it's all just a coincidence.
Correct.
Blazes have also been recorded across France, where very low groundwater levels have put France on course for a worse summer drought than last year, which was the worst drought in recorded history. In Switzerland, police issued evacuation orders for several mountain villages due to the spread of a fire. And Switzerland also experienced a tornado last month, which ripped roofs off buildings and knocked over a construction crane, causing very exciting footage on YouTube. In Greece, fires burning since mid-July on the island of Rhodes have forced the evacuation of 20,000 people. A wildfire also forced evacuations from the island of Corfu, wherever that is. Italy's health minister on July the 18th issued red weather alerts for 20 of the 27 main cities of that country.
Emergency, everybody to get from street. Emergency, everybody to get from street.
Rome registered a new record high temperature of 41.8 Celsius, the weather service of the local region reported. And fires across Russia's vast forest wilderness have led to emergency declarations in several regions. But don't worry your pretty little heads about it. The oil companies have poured vast resources into colouring their adverts green and showing only windmills and sunshine. So I'm sure they're not responsible. And they've given so much money to the Conservative Party that the Tories couldn't be openly supporting them, as that would lead to charges of corruption. And we know they're not corrupt. They told us so themselves.
This government will have integrity, professionalism and accountability at every level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, in this damp disappointment for a summer, we actually had what you could call summer weather for just a couple of days.
What?
Britain enjoyed a brief glimpse of summer this week as temperatures in part of the UK neared 72 degrees. Big bloomin' deal. Forecasters have, however, warned that we should brace for more rain. More rain. The brief 24-hour window of warmth is going to come to an end tomorrow as showers and cooler temperatures become the order of the day.
Oh, no.
Met Office spokesmodel Simon said that low 20 centigrade temperatures this weekend will be but a brief taste of summer. Worst summer ever.
Correct.
Saturday, breezy, sunny spells, scattered showers, showers most frequent and heaviest in the north, with thunder, lightning, very, very frightening.
Rock and roll!
Would you like to hear the forecast for the next 4 weeks?
No.
No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. So, next couple of weeks, which takes us to the last week of August. Where has it gone? The last week of August already. At first, next couple of weeks, at first, sunshine and showers with a decent, drier interludes in places. Well, not one particular place, I bet. I bet they're not going to see a single solitary second of dry. I can check that while you wait. Aha. Oh, dear. That is awful. Well, Glaswegians, it's not raining there now. But it will be. In Glasgow, it will be raining tonight and tomorrow and on Sunday. It'll be raining on Monday and raining on Tuesday and raining on Wednesday and raining on Thursday and raining on Friday and raining next Saturday. But then it'll be raining on Sunday and raining on Monday and raining on Tuesday and raining on Wednesday and raining on Thursday. Raining every single day for the next 2 weeks and probably the rest of your lives. Never mind, eh? Next couple of weeks. Sunshine, showers, that's here, there and everywhere, baby. Some southern areas are likely to become fine and dry, and it will feel fairly warm in any sunny spells. Temperatures likely to gradually increase through next week with a chance of it becoming very warm or even hot. And then, this is it. Last gasp before we swing round the dark side of the sun. Last week in August to the first week in September. Fingers crossed. Good luck, everyone. Some dry and settled spells are possible. The potential for fleeting warm or hot spells continues, and temperatures are likely to be around normal or slightly warmer than average. The potential for fleeting warm or hot spells continues, and temperatures are likely to be around normal or slightly warmer than average. We'll take it. David emails, unbelievable that the French Foreign Legion have contaminated our lovely... That's right. Bloomin' French disease. He says they've contaminated our lovely, friendly boat. He says, I bet Jeremy Corbyn was involved. Yeah, you bet he was. No comment from Braverman. Is she still hiding with Nadders? Can you imagine? Where is Nads, by the way? I mean, we're paying for her. Isn't it reasonable that we find out exactly where she is and what she's doing? Or can we have our money back, please?
No.
I'll assume that the answer is in the negative. How is that legal? I mean, in what other profession would you be allowed to not show up for work and still demand to be paid? And get paid your expenses? Name me the position that would be possible in. Go on, I double dare you. I can't believe it. The reason that stuff like this isn't written down is because just like the screaming Mimi in America...
Oh, shut up!
He engages in actions that had never previously been considered. Because previously people would have thought, well, it would be just too embarrassing for somebody to do something that bad. So let's just assume that embarrassment in public would prevent someone from doing such a thing. So we don't need to write that down. And here we are. Absolutely everything has been upturned since the screaming Mimi, and you know who took over.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
2 peas in a pod. Paul says, apparently it's okay to swear at work and in public life now. A northern bloke who can cook up a delicious, nutritious meal for 30p said so. I thought I'd get in early and say what a great bleeping show. If you didn't like what I just said, well, you can, etc. and so on. As usual, there is a lot to unpick. Let's start with the obvious one, shall we? Asylum seekers were driven away from the Bibby Stockholm after a deadly Legionella bacteria was found in the migrant barge's water system. All 39 migrants on board the vessel were evacuated today, just 4 days after the first 15 men stepped onto it in Portland in Dorset, and are being moved back into the same bloomin' hotel they were in before.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Which means that diseases have now been added to the list of enemies of the people, which includes, but is not limited to, lawyers, judges, teachers, nurses, junior doctors, lefties in general, the woke, unions, Mick Lynch in particular, The Guardian, the BBC, people who are concerned for the welfare of others, people who have preferred pronouns, youngsters, footballers who talk politics, and Jeremy blooming Corbyn. Now the lovely Cruella de Brave has had another of her dreams sadly dashed as small boat people marched off her lovely big boat. And all because of some lefty Legionnaire's disease, which sounds pretty French to me. A Home Office spokesmodel said that the woke microbe can bleep off back to where it came from. Because that is apparently how His Majesty's government talks these days. Not Her Majesty's. I keep forgetting. I'm not in love anymore. A Home Office spokesmodel said that blooming microbe can bleep off back to where it came from. I mean, he's the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. You wouldn't believe it if you didn't know you were living through it. Isn't that right, Smug?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. One doesn't need to know anything if one's born into wealth. Why does anybody pay a single, solitary second's worth of attention to what that man says? And in case you think that this was just an isolated error of judgment, to send people to live on top of each other in confined quarters where a deadly disease lurks, remember, this was just days after the Home Office told an asylum seeker with tuberculosis that they were going to be moved onto the Bibi Stockholm barge. Tuberculosis, a highly infectious disease that spreads through the air. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, it's so stupid from a health perspective that you have to dismiss concerns for people's health from the government's thinking. They don't care about them. And you might conclude they don't care about you either. I mean, is your experience of the health service that we rely on better now than it was when the Tories took over? Or is it worse? Take your time. Think it through. The doctor treating the migrant with tuberculosis tried to prevent the move to put him on board the floating prison ship and warned of a public health catastrophe in the making. Well, it might appear to you that the one thing this government actually excels in is creating public health catastrophes. It's their number one priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Yeah, you've still got that the wrong way around. Our priorities are supposed to be the government's priorities. You don't tell us what our priorities are. Especially, like, gazing at us with those sad puppy dog eyes. And his little suit and his gelled hair. Isn't he an absolute dream? Dr. Dominic Metz, an actual GP for more than 250 asylum seekers in Oxfordshire, told the I newspaper that 10 of his patients had received letters from the Home Office saying they would be moved to the barge. Some of the patients are awaiting surgery and mental health support, which he fears will be disrupted by the move, and one is under active treatment for tuberculosis, which could pose a public health risk if it became active and spread. Doctors are also concerned about potential outbreaks of other diseases, which include, but are not limited to, scabies and diphtheria, both of which have been detected in other asylum seeker accommodations as these spread faster in crowded areas. Now, I don't know anything about scabies and diphtheria, but they sound pretty Victorian to me. The good old days are coming back under the Conservative Party when we only lived till we were 35 and we were glad of it. Doctors are concerned about this. Doctors are. But, what do doctors know about medicine? And it also might appear to you that causing as many of the population to die as early as possible is also the government's number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping it. This is from The Economist from March this year. In recent years, Britain has been hit by one health crisis after another. This is The Economist, by the way. The lefty woke Economist. They said long before the pandemic hit, Britain endured a grim decade during which perhaps 250,000 people died younger than expected. That is the number of extra deaths in Britain compared with similar countries such as France and Denmark. The reason is that in the early 2010s, life expectancy stalled in Britain compared with long-run trends and other countries. This slowdown in life expectancy struck all age groups, not just the elderly, and it disproportionately affected the poor. If you travel 10 kilometres, 6 miles, from the poshest part of Kensington in London to New Cross Gate, life expectancy for men falls 18 years. And when more people are dying and life expectancy is stagnating, a greater number of people are also living in ill health. And the thing that happened here that didn't happen elsewhere was Tory austerity. 14 years of cuts and defunding of everything we taxpayers thought we were paying our taxes for health, social care, the things that improve a life, good wages, security, all gone, just memories. We're living shorter lives in worse health. If you're poor, if you're rich, of course, then you won't have noticed, because none of this austerity affected you, apart from making you richer, also known as the plan. Everything's going very well. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
This is LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Everything is going extremely well.
Everything is going extremely badly. 0345 6060 973. Let's talk to a person in Erith called Steve. Steve.
Hi, Nick.
Steve.
I've written it down this time, so because I tend to confuse people.
Yes.
I think you keep saying that plan. I think it's all in the plan. Traumatised people crossing the channel. Last thing they want to see is a boat, innit? So they stick them on a boat. Now, a little sarcastic joke, I suppose. Yeah, we've put a bit of Legionnaires in there as well.
I mean, that's where we are now. We're being led by a bunch of clowns and fools to the left of me and jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle of that lot.
But can I tell you something, please, Nick? Because things you say and have said, over the past couple of years, really, you can't believe that they're going to do this and go through with it, and surely they couldn't get away with it.
Yeah.
But one thing you said about when voting, I keep hearing people say, if they don't cancel it and that sort of thing as well. I keep hearing it. So,
you mean if they hang on a minute, I just sort of missed what you just said there. You mean if they cancel the next general election?
Yes.
Yeah. I believe that if Donald Trump gets in, he will find some way of doing that, and the Conservative Party appear to be led by what would Donald Trump do. And so I do fear that is where we are heading. That a general election, if not the next one, that at some point in the future will be either cancelled or taken from us for our safety.
I do as well, but the thing is, sometimes it's a bit jokey, but that's what's that. I'm sort of hearing it. People are which is a worry.
Yeah, no joke.
And
there's nothing funny about it.
I'll tell you what, I'll let you go, but I just want to say I'm still not paying me water.
Are you enjoying water?
Well, I don't really use a lot, but right. I do. Water's very precious.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You should splash out on it every now and again, Steve. Treat yourself. You're worth it. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. On the subject of water, Oliver texts, I have a complaint. I live in a flat that has its own water tank, and therefore I must pay every 2 years for a bacterial water test, unlike some people who come over here, breathe our air and eat our food. I could only dream of getting a room with a sea view and a Legionnaire's disease. Free. Well, it's nice to have a dream. 0345 6060 973. Penge. Peter.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
At least they're bringing us something, eh? Can't say they're not coming empty-handed.
Well, exactly.
I don't think I've ever spoken to you before, so it's nice to speak to you. We all look forward to Friday because what we hear in the week, I think we all sort of go, oh, what's Nick will say about that? What's Nick will say about that? Not that I'm bigging you up at all.
Right,
no. But yeah, I just wanted to say hello to you, Nick. I haven't spoken to you before, and keep the keep the old blood pressure down because you sounded a bit.
Yes,
on
the edge. I'm a cop on the edge, like every film you've ever seen. Yeah, all right, good work. Thanks a lot. You just wanted to say hello.
Hello.
Just wanted to wish me a cheery hi there.
Hello.
Thanks a lot, Peter. Appreciate it. 0345 6060 973. Stu says 30p Lee's builder's language suggests that immigrants don't like the quality of their hotels. Well, I don't like the quality of this government, but I don't know where I can tell them to go. Maybe just away. Wouldn't that be great if we could just say, go on, back to where you came from, wherever that may be.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And for those who think how preposterous an idea it is that a general election will be cancelled and the reason that will be given is for our safety, they've already tried to take away your vote by making it as difficult as possible for those who are more likely to vote for the Labour Party or anybody other than the Tories to actually show up and cast their vote by this ID thing. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. That top-hatted twiglet actually let the cat out of the bag.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He said that it was an attempt at gerrymandering which may have blown up in their face, because there's a lot of their own fans who might not have an ID card, who might be desperate to vote Conservative. I mean, you'd expect that many of them would, because what is the average age of of your average Tory voter? Like death? It's approximately, I think their average age of the Tory voter is approximately death. It's there or thereabouts. I mean, it's like 65 plus. And under the current regime, you can't expect, unless you're a millionaire, to live much beyond the age of 65. Yeah, happy death day. He said it out loud. In fact, I should have that on tape. He said that this attempt at gerrymandering, he actually said those words out loud, might blow up in their faces because a lot of their own fans might not have ID cards. Smug said that top-hatted twiglet. That guy. So you don't have to take my word for it. They're saying the quiet part out loud. All of them are. Because I don't think they care anymore. I mean, they've said so much and done so much to us and got absolutely nothing back, no pushback of any kind. That it emboldens you. It must do. I mean, if you just keep doing things that you shouldn't and you keep getting away with it and nobody even questions you, then you just think, well, there are no rules anymore. Anything I say or do will go uncommented on and there will be no comeback on me. Must be the prevailing thinking. Because otherwise, why would they keep telling us things that we know aren't true?
This government will have integrity at every level.
At every level. Point to the level of integrity. I mean, let's slice this country and the government's operations up into 1,000 levels. Point to the one with integrity. I dare you. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC. Oh, blimey, it's 10:30 already. The news headlines with Darryl Jackson.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
And I can't stand him.
Steph texts, every weekend when you are on the wireless, I rush up to bed early to tune in. For the best part of 3 hours, I laugh like a drain. Well, you've got to have a laugh, ain't ya? He says, my old semi is cursed with thin walls. My neighbour must wonder what the hell is going on. It's just a matter of time before I get served with a noise abatement order. When it arrives, I'll forward it to LBC. Oh, I see. It's my fault. Archie says the Queen got paid expenses for not turning up. Leave Nadine alone. She's doing her best. Well, I'm not sure which is more alarming. She's not trying at all, or this is her doing her best. Where is she, by the way?
Hello?
Where are you? Simon says, I don't want to depress you further, but 3 times a week I've heard geese flying south for the winter. Summer is over. Well, you don't want to depress me, then don't. Gemma says, this week a woman in Texas was gardening when a snake fell out of the sky onto her arm. Then a hawk attacked the snake who wouldn't let go of her arm. Do you think nature is trying to tell us something? Yeah, I think it's telling us to get out. Get off our planet. Go back to where you came from, like the primordial ooze. That is horrible, by the way. Could we not have come from somewhere nicer sounding than an ooze? Ew. 0345 6060 973. Northwich, Alice.
Yes, and I was just thinking what you said about the average age of the Tory voter, and I was sort of thinking, yes, well, that would be my parents. Well, I'm batting on 80, so yes, they'd be about 125.
125?
So, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So death is the average age of the
That's
Tory
right.
voter.
They're going to make it the law that even after you've died, your vote will still count if you are going to vote Conservative.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. But I think if they try and sort of have some emergency to avoid an election, I think there'd be a riot. I mean, honestly, I think to myself, God, if I was sort of, 50, 60, 70 years young, do you know what I mean? I'd be rioting already, but
if you were
riot for me now.
Alice, if you were French, you'd have been rioting already. There ain't going to be no riots in this country. You'd think if we would have been the type of person to create a stink about something, we'd have done it already. I mean, how much needs to happen to us? There's more people waiting for treatment on the NHS than people live in this country. The queue is from the moon and back again, whereas 10 years ago you used to get an appointment the next day with your GP. Now, getting an appointment with your GP is like finding a magic ticket in one of them chocolate bars.
Well, that's absolutely true, but, it's been very sort of incremental, but, I think people are getting to the stage when, enough is enough. When they think it's better that a doctor's packed off to Australia than simply gone on strike waiting for a bit of cash.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think that there's just enough of us that will be persuaded that, and here I go again with the blooming ladder thing, that the people below you on the ladder are pulling you down rather than the people above you on the ladder are pushing you down. And I think that there's just enough people who are full of bile and hatred to make it happen one more time for the Conservative Party.
No, I don't... I don't agree with you, Nick. I think it used to be like that, but I think it's changed. I listen to LBC a lot, and I think the mood has definitely changed.
Well, you sound like one of those lefty troublemakers, Alice, and I expect it's a quick flight to Rwanda for you. All right, thanks a lot, Alice. 0345 6060 973. Just don't express that opinion at home near your phone, because your phone is listening to you. So's your television, in all likelihood. Anything that is connected with the internet is monitoring you right now, in case you say something disapproving of the regime. Just keep that in mind. And that is the official position of LBC. 0345 6060 973. Darryl says the Prime Minister says that people should not be jumping the queue to get UK residency, but he thinks it's also totally fine for people with private health insurance to jump the queue to get treated. Hypocritical much? I mean, I'm no historian. I don't know anything about history at all, but it seems impossible to believe that the recent slew of prime ministers that we have been subject to can be beaten for badness. Is that the right word?
No.
For badosity. First it was this. I can't remember where I put him. Where have I put the hapless clown? Oh, there he is.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, first it was him. And then it just seemed to get worse and worse. I mean, this guy...
Yeah. Wait a minute.
...brought a level of mendacity, the likes of which this country has never seen. Because Trump was happening in America at the same time, our eye was taken off this blonde bombshell, this one.
The great big greedy nincompoop.
Yeah, the great big greedy nincompoop. Our eye was taken off him because Trump was just so, just so planetary awful. Is planetary the right word?
No.
Planetarily. There you are. Is that right?
No.
He just took the eye off, didn't he, Trump? Meanwhile, his imperial bodgeness was doing the exact same blooming thing in this country, just not quite as loud or garishly. And so we had to suffer through him, during which time he pretty much dismantled everything that we hold dear. And then, of course, the clown show took over.
Absolutely.
And then this guy came along who was supposed to be the grown-up in charge.
I'm gripping it.
Yeah, that guy. With his pleading little puppy dog eyes and his excited little jig when he speaks and his little suits and his greasy hair.
You don't need to put all of that product in your hair. You just don't.
And it's almost like being released from being locked in somebody's basement. It's like, oh, finally. And you get out and you're still locked in their garden. You know, you got one of them dog leads around you that's banged into a stake in the ground, and you can only go 10 feet, but at least you're not in the basement anymore. Now, with this guy, it seems like, well, at least we're not like careening around on 3 wheels anymore, like a clown car. But it seems to be worse under him, Mr. Integrity. Am I just hallucinating, or does everything seem to have been turbocharged? All of the evil part has really been, they're maxing it out. Almost as though they think, well, there's not much time left, so we're going to have to strip the entire country for parts. We're going to put it all up on bricks. We'll take the wheels, and we'll come back for the engine later. And then we're going to set fire to it in case anybody comes along afterwards and tries to refurbish it. It does appear to be a scorched-to-earth policy, doesn't it, under Mr. Integrity? Unless I'm imagining it, in which case you must correct me. But they just seem to be getting worse. I mean, Theresa May was the one that I missed out. Do you remember Mrs. M?
No.
Yeah. I mean, at least she seemed to have some element of decency about her. OK, she couldn't walk in those shoes, but that shouldn't come as an impediment to us thinking well of her, you know, comparatively speaking.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Do not panic! Do not panic! We are trained professionals!
Yes, the government is occupied by trained professionals. Not quite the right way around of putting it, but, you know, it makes as much sense as anything else on this show. Camden, hello, Max.
Oh, hi. Sorry, it was a surprise you came. Yes, firstly, I think it's hilarious what you do. Thank you. It lightens up the whole situation, so great.
Just as long as you don't say I'm keeping you sane. That's too much pressure.
No, you're keeping me realising that the whole thing is insane,
right.
to be quite honest.
Yes.
And my point is well, I haven't... in the past, I've rung up and I haven't really made a point, but I'm going to try to now, which is simply that I completely agree with you. And I think what's happened is that we've kind of accepted lowest common denominator logic.
Mm.
It's been chipped away, our natural sense of what's right or wrong.
Yes, decency.
Which is terrible. But we voted for it, and
correct.
People voted for it.
Over and over
are
again.
The 2 species on the planet England that are completely without any kind of social conscience and completely without any kind of basic overview. Is that right? I don't know.
Are people in this country without conscience or any sort of basic overview? I don't know what the overview part means.
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of with a social conscience, so they can see the benefit of everything working for everyone. That's what I mean by that.
I think that these people are not necessarily bad people. I think that they are easily manipulated. They are gullible people. I mean, I suspect that one of the reasons the Tories aren't that bothered about education for non-rich private school pupils is that a certain level of ignorance is vital to them collecting enough votes at an election to stay in power.
Well, on the other hand, you could say that a lot of the people that come out of good education, etc., are going, oh, well, never mind, and just get on with it and go vote for the government. You know, it's scary.
Well, I think that those of a certain age and class and intellect vote a certain way, fairly reliably, and the Tories know who those people are, which is why they hired Lee Anderson, or they promoted him to his current level of mystifying prominence. It's not an accident. He didn't blurt this stuff out. He isn't sort of going off-piste by saying they could bleep off back to France.
He's flagging what they think and wouldn't dare say.
Exactly.
Or they would say in France.
Polite middle-class people wouldn't say that, but they're not trying to aim their policies at polite middle-class people. They've abandoned those, hoping, fingers crossed, that they will, when it comes down to it, vote Conservative because they hold mortgages and they have savings accounts, and when it comes to it...
They're just protecting their own.
People are selfish, and they will vote for whoever they think will make them the most money. So what they're really trying to get on board are the knuckle draggers and the mouth breathers, and hence Lee Anderson gets promoted and defended. It's not an accident. None of this stuff is, oh, blimey, did you hear what he just said? It's a plan.
Ouch.
Yeah. All right, thanks a lot, Max. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, people are treating this Lee Anderson guy as though he's some sort of an anomaly. He sort of snuck his way in by mistake, or something. And you know, the actual rump of the Tory party are holding a scented tissue to their noses in his presence, you know, so as to avoid a fit of the vapours. It ain't like that at all. They have determined who they're trying to get on board. And it's all of the people who, essentially the people who voted Brexit. Who voted Brexit? Okay, you're not going to like it, but I'm going to tell you anyway. The people who voted Brexit are the least educated among us. That's just a fact. That's who they're trying to get. Now, it's easier to persuade people who don't know very much that the reason that this country is ailing is because of people on small boats or some easily identifiable minority. You know, we go through all of them, and it's a big long list, and they just go down them. Who is it this week? Single mothers. Who is it next week? Benefit cheats. You know, and it just goes on, and the small boat people is definitely the order of the day.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
Yeah, it's not the country's priority to stop the boats. It's the country's priority to actually get better. The 7-odd million people who are waiting for treatment on the NHS would quite like to get better. Never mind about 20,000 people who come in on a small boat, for crying out loud. Considering there's 10 times that, 20 times that amount who come in legally. The government just opens the door and lets them in, while pointing to the smaller number of the more desperate people who have just arrived by boat on the shores of Dover. And there's a certain type of person who is gullible enough to believe that, and that's who they're going for. They've forgotten the middle class. It's like, forget them. They've all gone hippie, and they eat vegan burgers and smoke mushrooms, and they're going to vote Lib Dem. So forget all those people. We're going to go for the mouth breathers. That is the plan. Tell me another reason why Lee Anderson is the deputy chair of the Conservative Party. Give me one other reason. You can't. 0345 6060 973. Let's have, been waiting the longest, Ross Lee. Alex.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. It's Ross Leigh.
Ross Leigh.
Tiny little village in the middle of Northern Ireland. Anyway, sorry. General, Pippi stocking or whatever it is, it's just this... Is it an attempt to kill us all? Is it an attempt to grow a petri dish of the whatever we can, and then off you go?
Well, if you look at what they've done to the health service, then you would be hard-pressed to come to the conclusion that they actually care about our health.
But I spent pretty much the last 7 years working with seniors in a carer society in Northern Ireland, and oh my God, we have similar, same and worse. It's almost every level is decimated. I mean, one thing that we kind of touch on now and again is suicide rates, just to be cheerful. And they've gone through the roof. But nobody particularly wants to talk about that because that's rather icky. And obviously dead people cost a lot less as well.
They certainly do.
but I'm not entirely certain as the way forward. Nick, you have clout. You're an intelligent guy.
No, I don't, and I'm not. But go on.
People are asking for PR. I don't understand how changing the electoral system would lead to a more informed electorate.
Never mind about the more informed electorate. It would lead to a less of one government, usually the Conservatives, having 100% of the power despite getting less than 50% of the votes.
Sold. Love that.
Oh.
With a nod to Northern Ireland, the Alliance Party have done absolutely fantastic in the last couple of years, and it looks like challenging the status quo for here. So there are signs of positivity at the moment, so I do think there is a way of pulling out of this before we continue with the kaleidoscope of disaster, but how long it takes to turn out of that, I'm not entirely certain.
Right, the kaleidoscope of disaster. Actually, that sounds like a good film.
Groovy.
I think I'd quite like to see that.
Yowza.
The kaleidoscope of disaster. Part 1 in a cinema near you from Friday. All right, thanks, Alex. 0345 6060 973. I mean, those numbers that I gave just some moments ago, and you read them and you think, hang on a minute, why are people getting past this sentence? Why are they shrugging and just carrying on? This is from The Economist. This is not a lefty paper. In recent years, Britain has been hit by one health crisis after another, but long before the pandemic hit, Britain endured a grim decade during which perhaps 250,000 people died younger than expected. I mean, it's almost as though the idea is to get rid of a large percentage of the poor and the weak, keeping just enough of us to make the things that the rich want and deliver it to them. You know, create a sort of wealthy, essentially gated community of money, inside of which everything is lovely and privately provided. And outside the gates, there are rampaging hordes of sick but furious people whose anger is being manipulated by the wealthy to keep down any of them that would complain by labelling them unpatriotic. No! That's the incredible thing to me, is those that appear to want the worst for this country have draped themselves in the flag and are calling themselves patriots. Well, the whole world's gone insane. I mean, I'd say all that as a fantasy. Of course, it's not real. I mean, how stupid would we have to be to fall for that? A Home Office spokesperson said of the Bibi Stockholm thing. You'll love this. They said, well, imagine, what in your mind do you think that they would say? You know, they just put all these people on. So one doctor was saying that one of them has got tuberculosis, and probably, which is a deadly infectious disease, and so it's probably not a good idea to squeeze him on board a ship with hundreds of other people. Not a concern for Her Majesty's government. And they do checks. The fire service come in and say it's a fire risk.
Warning, warning.
And the government's reaction is, what do fire people know about fighting fire? These are just experts. We've heard plenty enough from experts. Thank you very much.
Calm down,
he said. And now they find some French disease, Legionnaire's disease, some European thing. So what would you think that the government would say? Addressed with all of those facts, they would say, here's the wording from the official Home Office spokesperson, the welfare of asylum seekers being housed on the vessel in Portland is of the utmost priority. I mean, I suppose that's meant to be funny, isn't it? I mean, they're joking with us now, right? It's all with a sly nod and a wink to the mouth breathers that this whole thing is aimed to please. And they know that nothing that they've said up to this point has come with any consequences. I mean, none of them are in jail. None of the regime has been fined, have been brought to book, like happens in America. I mean, in America, if you break the law, then you will be finding yourself in front of a judge, quite possibly going to jail. as A Golf Twitler is finding out to his cost.
Oh, shut up!
Your husband may be going to jail, Melania.
I don't care.
She's actually not that bothered. So in America, there are consequences to a politician's misdeeds. In this country, well, one thing follows the other, but they will not go to jail. They will go to the House of Lords. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbott.
Yeah!
Hello, boys.
0345 6060 973. Clive says, so far the government's UK immigration policy has been to put a couple of migrants on a plane on a runway that never took off, send 39 migrants to a floating barge for a 3-day holiday, which nearly poisoned them, and paint out a children's mural. Total cost? Billions of pounds. Billions and billions of pounds. Total benefit? 0. Yes, it's all going very well. Ain't it, Fishy?
I am totally 100% on it.
This is him 100% on it. If only he could act like a footballer and give us 110%, then we really might be getting somewhere. But apparently we're only worth 100%. Thanks a lot, Fishy. 0345 6060 973. Merthyr Tydfil. Hello, Jeff.
Oh, Nick, how are you doing, boy?
Great, mate.
I have to today. I was absolutely riveted to the LBC when James O'Brien was talking about Scottish independence. It is the only media that I've come across in the UK at the moment that is prepared to discuss it even. And it was a very fair, very open discussion about the ability of Scotland, if they became independent, to rejoin Europe. And it was stunning. I was gobsmacked. And you made a comment earlier about the ability of everybody to listen in to what you're doing. And if you make the wrong comment, so when they cancel the next general election because they're quite capable of it, you and I think you'll be in the firing line, Nick, and James. I think.
Yeah, literally.
You may well be. And when I was listening to Nick Ferrari cross-examining Jenick, that guy who painted out the murals, I couldn't believe it. He's still defending that. It is absolutely indefensible.
Well, they flip-flop between... I think the latest one that I heard, it may have been subsequently usurped by some other fantasy excuse, but it was, it's because the children there were too old for that sort of cartoon. So it was age inappropriate because the children were too old, he said.
As you said, are we all going mad? We're all going insane in this country. I'm just baffled.
Do you live near Fosse Fran?
Fran.
Yeah, all right. Do you live near there?
Yeah, right. I can walk down the road and look at it, okay? I turn around and look at the brick. The Banai Brachainog. Remember those?
No. Because I was reading about that today. I cannot believe what's happening there. It was it's an open cast mining site. One of the most. I mean, Wales is no end of beautiful, but they have managed to change that in a very significant and unlimited way. It's hideous what they've done. It's an open cast mining site in Merthyr Tydfil. It was ordered to close after 15 years in April 2023, this year. I mean, it was originally supposed to close in September last, when its planning permission expired. But more than 200,000 tonnes of coal have been extracted since then, since their planning permission expired. They're not doing it in secret. It's not like they're doing it underground. They've extracted 260,000 tonnes of coal since their permission expired. How is that being allowed to happen?
They've also, the inspection from the Coal Authority, and they discovered that they've gone outside of their original designated area. And the very latest for you, is that when they're taking their 6,000 tonnes of coal down the railway line, down to the steelworks in Botalda.
It is inconveniently owned by the Welsh Government. Yeah, that railway line. They're just letting them do it. They told them not to do it, and then they said, please use our railway line to disobey our orders.
Yes.
I mean, it's absolutely staggering what's happening down there. I mean,
I can't believe it.
No, I can't believe it. You just look at what's happening in this country and you shake your head thinking, is this real life or am I hallucinating? Their planning permission expired for an open cast mining site since the expiration of their planning permission. Since they were told to stop doing it, they've extracted 260,000 tonnes of coal. They can't do it in secret, can they? What the hell's happening down there, Jeff?
Well, what happened was that the local council, the engineers or the planning, whatever they were, they probably said, look, Emrys, go up and serve the writ to stop them mining the coal. So they got into their Mark II Fiesta, and they went up. They went up to this massive site where you could put the Fiesta in the fuel tank and the stuff, thundering around.
Yes.
And they probably went into the office and they said, "Hey, look, you got to stop. Here's a writ." So the guy behind the counter went, "Okay." You open the window. He says, "Okay, boys, stop working." And I shut the window. I said, "There we are, we'll stop now."
Yeah.
And they probably got in the Fiesta.
Problem solved. Yeah. It's staggering. I mean, it's just amazing. And apparently they don't have enough money to actually put it back. They're supposed to put it back to how it was, or grass it over, or make it less hideous than it is. And apparently they haven't got enough money to do that. And coincidentally, they've also awarded as dividends and bonuses to executives and shareholders more money than it would have cost to put it right. I mean, it's just this country has now become a third world country. Points to the part of this country that actually looks first world anymore. The things that we actually rely on, the people, not building. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about billionaires from Qatar building £100 million buildings. They're going up, no problem at all. I mean, the things that we, the little people.
The little people.
That we rely on, it's all third world. Look at our roads, for crying out loud. I just can't believe what's happening in this country, Jeff. All right, thanks for the bad news, mate. Keep your eyes peeled. Just don't breathe in too deeply, that's all. Don't breathe in too deeply. And absolutely, definitely and totally do not go swimming. Name me the other country in Europe that is that regularly has on their news bulletins not to go swimming.
Warning, warning.
Do not go in the water because unless you like being covered in hot, delicious sewage. There isn't one. You can't find one. I don't believe you. There is not another country in Europe that is regularly telling its citizens not to go swimming off a beach in a school holiday because of sewage. There isn't one. If you poisoned your local waterway with stuff that you couldn't be bothered to take down to the tip, you just thought, I've got a lot of paint pots here and, there's this bucket of weed killer and that I bought but haven't used, I'll just throw it in the river. If somebody caught you doing that, you'd be in jail. But apparently corporations can do it without impediment. And if every now and again the regulator rouses itself from its slumbers, it will hit them with a piddlingly small fine, so small that the corporations that are running our water don't even notice. They pay zero attention, apart from firing up their PR departments to assure us that the quality of our water is their number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority, up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping us. He is all over it, giving it 99%, 95. He's giving it 80%, 63% tops. No less than 43% of his time. I've got to stop reading Twitter because it just makes me irate these days. I mean, within half an hour, within half a minute, I'm furious. Every day, some other outrage that has been perpetrated on us poor dopes who pay taxes. What have I done to deserve this? Tom says, did you know that the government handed a £1.6 billion contract to an Australian travel firm for those disgraceful disease-ridden barges that they put the asylum seekers on? This is truly a failed country under the Tories. It is. It's taken them somewhat less than 14 years, but they took over a perfectly well-functioning country and they turned it into this mess. Thanks a lot, Budge.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
You could have driven a bus through that gap. I said, thanks a lot, Budge.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Better. 0345 6060 973. I have detailed files, don't you worry about that. But, only a brief 3-hour show in which to regurgitate them all over you. Let's have Camden, Ellie.
Oh, hi, Nick.
Ellie.
Oh, this is such a travesty. I do believe it.
Travesty. No. It's travesty.
Yeah.
Sing.
No, not a good travesty.
Right.
Travesty. Okay, I have 3 things I want to say. One is the ground for this was laid for all this horror that has slowly crept around us. It was laid when we got 3 shocks around the same time. One was the referendum.
Yeah.
The second one
that
was Cameron.
That was you know whose fault.
I think this is nonsense.
Course.
Yes.
The second one was Cameron running to the tool shed unexpectedly, having broken his word. And the third was finding that Trump was the president of the United States. So there's the platform. Then along comes Theresa May, and I'm going to disagree with you about her. And she wins her campaign, but suddenly shouts, "Follow me! Follow me!" And my heart kind of dropped into my boots. I thought, God, this sounds so inane. It sounds like a mini blitzkrieg, and I'm not a teenager, and I don't know where any of this is going. So that's number 2. And the third thing is we later found out, and this is what really gets me, this is where our cognitive dissonance, national cognitive dissonance, began to sink in, or it did with me to a point. And that was when I learned that despite the fact that our teenagers at that time, particularly black kids, were getting criminal records for carrying 3-quid deals, which were probably so strong that it blew their brains out. Her family owned a farm that sold cannabis.
Whose family?
And we did.
Whose family?
Theresa May's husband.
Well, it may have sold cannabis, but I don't know anything about that. But she certainly wasn't dealing. If you are referring to growing cannabis for medical reasons, then that's something else entirely. Is that what you're referring to? Right. Okay. Well, they weren't selling it to kids. Believe me. What is odd is that this government seems to have because they're fearful of what the Daily Mail will say. It can't be any other reason that they keep instigating inquiries into legalising marijuana and decriminalising other drugs. Over and over again. They keep hiring people, eminent professors and doctors and sociologists and psychologists and medical people and so on. And they say, can you look into this issue for us? And they always come back with, Well, what we're doing now is absolutely insane, and we should follow the lead of other better-run countries. And the government's response is always, no, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is enact another investigation. And they keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different response. And you know what that means. Yeah, don't concern yourself, Ellie. Mrs. M was not selling weed on the side.
Want to score some pot?
But thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's at LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Luke texts, it's pretty obvious that the woke lefty lawyers intentionally put the bacteria in the water supply of the barges to make us surrender our sovereignty to Brussels and crush our dreams of housing migrants in barges. What a way to run a country, eh? Says Luke. Paul says, this week's discovery, when you put a barge in a sea full of sewage, the water supply gets contaminated with Legionella. What a way to celebrate Stop the Small Boats Week. They were going to have a week? Well, like a little celebration. But people have bunting and everything. Now, let's see, who's been waiting the longest? Bodmin. Hello, Malcolm.
Oh, hello, Nick. How are you, sir?
Great, mate.
A couple of thoughts I'd like to share with you.
Couple of three thoughts.
Yeah. The news, I don't know whether you've heard the news on LBC this evening. It was announced half an hour ago in the bulletin that Rishi Sunak now has the sixth priority. Did you know that?
Sixth?
Yeah, and that sixth priority is the priority of the government, and it's the welfare of asylum seekers.
Welfare of asylum seekers is the government's top priority.
Yeah, it's number 6, and it's going just as well as the other 5.
That's right, yeah.
He is failing all of them miserably.
I think that I'm prepared to say it right now. I mean, this might be a little bit early in the game, but I think he is quite possibly the worst and equally the most dangerous Prime Minister we've ever had in this country. Name a worse one.
I can't.
I mean, okay, so there was the Liz bot.
Absolutely.
But she was her tenure was so brief that you blinked and you missed it.
Yes. But I've been saying it for weeks, months. He's not a nice fella. You don't get to be where he is, Nick, as wealthy as he is, without having a bit of an edge to you, put it that way.
For people who buy that hurt puppy dog look that he seems to have affected, then I have to say, warning, that's not who he is.
No. Hey, look, he's carried on Johnson's levelling up, I think, in that right now he's in Santa Monica on holiday, cruising the boardwalk with the family, as you do, and he's thinking, I know what I'll do. I'll spread a little joy. We'll do holidays by the sea for people, and he's put some people in pool in Dorset by the seaside. And do you not think that's levelling up to his level?
Oh, well, it's a bit tortured there, Malcolm.
Yeah,
perhaps you need to think that one out again.
But seriously, like you mentioned earlier on the likes of Smug, and I honestly believe that Smug and your Goldsmiths and all of these, they've literally lost all relevance now. You think of Smug. He was the business secretary. He was the leader of the House. Now he has absolutely no relevance. But
well, I'm not sure, because they're to their fans or to the people that they're trying to bring on board, he is relevant. It doesn't matter whether he's part of the government or not. He represents the Conservative Party and the Tory way. And so what he and people like him say, whether they're ministers or not, never mind. It's how it's received by the people that they're aiming their message at. And for some weird reason, which I cannot fathom, poor people of low education seem to love Jacob Rees-Mogg. He's like a stupid person's idea of what a smart person is.
Well, no. I can see that if I was a Tory, I could sort of, in a sick sort of way, relish having him rubbing the Libs' face in it. That I can see. Because he is the most cretinous moron you could wish to sort of happen across. But
I don't think that's true. I think it's worse than that. He's not a cretinous moron. It's worse than that. The things that he says, I'm sure that half of them he doesn't actually believe. So he's not saying them out of stupidity. It's worse than that.
Well, Nick, I mentioned relevance, right? And I mentioned a few months back, a year ago, Smug's business, which he is a partner in, was valued on the market at some 90 million. And
I thought it was way more than that. But anyway.
No, 90 million. And they were offered 90 million for the business, and they turned it down.
Right.
Well, recently it was valued at 30 million pound. Now, in a minute, Nick, I can see that being his main focus. And he's going to be walking out of Parliament as a minister into a business which now is a third of the value it had literally 12 months ago.
Well,
and there's loads of them, Nick.
Okay, let me find the world's smallest violin. I don't know why you're telling me this, Malcolm. I'm not remotely interested in his business affairs any more than they affect his judgment or his pronouncements as part of government or inside or outside. I don't care about the falling value of his assets. But thanks, mate. I've got to go. 0345 6060 973. It does mystify me, his popularity. And it's not just that they like him. It's as though he's so much one of them. I mean, I'm talking about the attack dog element. He's so much one of them that they threaten anybody who says anything bad about him. I've actually seen videos of scary people in cars bellowing at their phones. Anybody comes from Jacob Rees-Mogg, like that, as though Jacob Rees-Mogg has their best interests at heart. Hello? Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. 0345 6060 973. But I think that Malcolm may have struck the nail right in the head there by saying it sticks it to the libs. Because there's a certain type of person in this country that they don't mind if the policy of government hurts them personally, just as long as the Liberals hate it. And that, I believe, is actually true. Which is just, I mean, if you just pause and think about that for a second, it's incredible. They don't mind if they're being tortured, just as long as other people disapprove of torture. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. If you had if you'd given people a snapshot of where we are now, 10, 15 years ago, no one would have believed you. People would have thought, if you'd given them a précis of the 10, 13 years at the end of the Labour government, this is what 13, 14 years of Conservative rule will mean. No one would have believed you. They would have called it Project Fear. They would have coined that term early. You would have been laughed out of the building if you had suggested any of the things that we have experienced and are currently experiencing. What? Companies that are providing a monopoly of a product that we can't do without are rinsing the general public for billions of pounds, while in return pouring raw sewage onto their beaches with the approval. The government don't seem to be doing anything about it other than lightly fining these companies, which they take as just another business expense. I mean, it's not stopping them doing it, is it? No one would have believed you. It would have been inconceivable. And yet here we are, and it's just become normalised. It's like, oh, well, yeah, you know, there's, you can't go on the beach and you definitely can't go in the sea, even though it's August during a school holiday, because, there's raw sewage. It's a danger of death off our coasts. Holiday destinations are closed because of sewage. Everywhere. No one would have believed you, and yet here we are. No one would have believed that a Prime Minister would have the nerve to talk about integrity, having overseen the biggest heist in history. Name me a theft that has disappeared more money than has gone AWOL under Rishi Sunak's leadership of the Treasury and the country. It's so big that you would have to make a film starring Brad Pitt, wouldn't you? George Clooney would have to also be involved. In fact, they'd have to get every blooming Hollywood star that you can think of. It would be a heist film so big. And yet, people just, oh, well, never mind. An amount of money that would give doctors 30% to pay rise, cure child poverty, and give us all a £10 book voucher, and it's just disappeared. And nobody seems remotely bothered. It's like, oh, well, you know, that's just, never mind. No one would have believed you if you had told them that 13 years ago. And yet here we are. Completely normalised. In Great Britain. It's staggering. I just don't recognise this country anymore. And I have to stop reading about it on Twitter. I have to... I think I'm going to close my Twitter account and then reopen it and express only an interest in pussycat and puppy dog videos in order to protect my mental health.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. Paul says, this week's discovery, when you put a barge in a... No, read that one. Ollie says, I'm going to drive my non-ULEZ compliant 2.7-litre diesel Jaguar into all London boroughs when Cairns ULEZ is extended, and I'm not paying the charge or a single fine. I'm standing up against Cairn for the good people of this country, says Ollie. No, Ollie, you're not. You're just being a selfish numpty. That's all. Unless you're not that bothered about breathing, in which case, carry on. Edward says, did you hear about Teresa Villiers' shares in oil? The exposure of this must have left her shell-shocked. Yes, I did. Wasn't that completely surprising?
No.
A former Environment Secretary has revealed she has shares worth more than £70,000 in Shell that she did not disclose as required for more than 5 years. Surprising, no?
No.
Teresa Villiers. You remember Teresa Villiers, don't you? Yes, that's her. She was the Secretary for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs from July 2019 to February 2020, but only this week disclosed that she has investments worth more than £70,000 each in Shell and the drinks company Diageo since February 2018. Villiers also disclosed shares worth more than £70,000 in Experian, held since July 2019, and an investment trust. Her disclosure follows revelations in The Guardian of scores of MPs who held shares that were, in effect, secret. House of Commons rules require MPs to disclose all shareholdings in a single company that are worth more than £70,000, but since his imperial bodgeness swept through the nation like a child picking off the frosting on the cake, no one pays any attention to little old rules anymore, do they, Bodge? A spokesmodel for Villiers said she deeply regretted her failure to monitor the value of shareholdings and has offered her sincere apologies. Adding, how could she possibly keep track of a little matter of a £70,000 investment in an oil company when she was a minister in the government whose portfolio intersected with the interests of that company? I mean, it's not like they're connected. She didn't say that. She actually said that the shares were professionally managed and she did not take day-to-day investment decisions, which I think is what that top-hatted twiglet says about his vast investments.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything about them.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. They're all completely clueless when it comes to their own finances, just very laissez-faire about their own money. You know, easy come, easy go. That's their motto. A spokesperson said, she takes full responsibility for the mistake. She accepts that it should never have happened, and that she should have kept track of the additions to her investment portfolio. She is taking steps to ensure that this never happens again. Nothing she has ever said or done as an MP has been influenced by these shareholdings. And her late declaration of her interest could place it in breach of the House of Commons Code of Conduct. In breach of the House of Commons Code of Conduct. That's funny. Good one. And it raises questions about the £70,000 threshold for registering interests, which it seems to have been devised with obstruction and concealment in mind. I mean, why can they own £69,999 in shares of a company that they may be in a position to do a favour for and not have to tell us? I mean, what third world oligarchy are we running here? The spokesman said, the Prime Minister's ethics advisor said, and the rest of that was drowned out by laughter. The Prime Minister's ethics advisor. That is funny. 0345 6060 973. There is no suggestion, of course, that Teresa Villiers did anything untoward of any kind at any point at all, ever. Camden, hello, Joe.
You're not suggesting Villiers is corrupt, are you?
No. I would think I was quite clear about that.
Right.
That was a terrible line, Joe.
Is that better?
I don't know. Carry on, let's see.
Right, I'm ringing about the boats. I heard you mentioning the boat.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now, I'm interested to know if the British authorities done anything in partnership with the French authorities to restrict the supply chain. Because someone out there must have a boat shop the size of bloody IKEA.
That's a good point, yeah.
Right. Now, if you stop the supply of boats, they can't get in them and cross the channel.
Yeah, you can't fit people in a boat if you haven't got a boat. That's just a fact.
There you go. Now, the French authorities, no one's going to convince me that they don't see these boats being dragged about on trailers like hackney carriages going down Oxford Street.
Yeah, but people have boats, though. I mean, are we to ban boats? I mean, there's lots of people who've got, well, not a lot of types of persons, like fisher persons have boats, and a lot of other people have, pleasure boats for pleasure.
Okay. Well, most of what comes across the channel are actually dinghies.
Are they? Are they? I don't know that that's true. But anyway, go on.
Well, from what I see on the news, most of them are in dinghies.
Okay.
Okay. So, as I said, if you can get rid of the supply chain, you get rid of the boats.
Yeah, but are you suggesting that we close down dinghy factories?
No, but they can investigate who is it that's going to this place and buying the boats regular. There's not a gang of 50 of them.
Well, I imagine if they're in the business of people trafficking, then they're not going to their local boat shop and buying them with a credit card. They're probably nicking other people's.
Oh, come on! How many boats are in Calais?
6? Is it 7? 1,000? Let's ask Zaphod.
And 1.
No, more than that.
Yeah, 2.
More than that.
6 million.
6 million boats, Joe.
No, there isn't.
6 million. You just heard the man himself. There's over 6. Well, a government minister, an ex-government minister, said so himself. Over 6 million votes. You just heard him say it.
In Calais?
In Calais itself, yes.
There you go. That's that warehouse side IKEA.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to write that down, Joe? These are important facts.
lot bigger than that. But anyway, that's my view on it, and I've not heard anything on the news or LBC or Radio 2 ever about anybody addressing the supply chain of these boats to the people smugglers.
Right. OK, somebody should definitely do something about that. That's his view.
My view?
It's his view. All right, thanks a lot, Joe. Excellent work. 0345 6060 973. I believe the French did offer to build with their own money a British processing centre over there in Calais. And our response was...
No.
And if I've got that right, that does mean that this whole thing is it's very obviously what people have thought about it, what lefty people have thought about it all along. That this entire thing with the boats is not something that the government actually wants to fix. They want to keep it a problem. Because without this distraction of the small boats thing, which they're relying on very much indeed...
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
And he goes on and on and on about stopping the boats. It's not the country's priority to stop the boats. But if they do actually stop the boats, then what have they got then? They're going to have to fashion some other chaos from somewhere to blame on foreigners or the poor or those who are less fortunate than we are. There's always going to be somebody, but they'll have to go to the effort of actually making it up. Big problem. So if the small boats people, I mean, that's the Donald Trump thing again. It's that, it was his initial speech.
The American dream is dead.
And he persuaded his fans that Mexicans were totally invading our country. They're rapists, they're murderers, and some are good people, I suppose. It's the exact same thing here. And they'll trawl through the news reports to find one person from abroad who did something wrong while they were here. And there's no end of them, I'm sure. I mean, you could find one per week, most definitely. And they'll use that as a reason that none of these people should be allowed to even set foot on this, on our glorious shores. But if the same logic was applied to the people who were actually born here, then hardly any of us would be allowed to stay here either. Hands up who hasn't committed a crime of some sort in their lifetimes. And if that's an excuse to put you on a plane to Rwanda, then Rwanda is going to have a lot of people landing there sometime soon. So they don't want to stop the boats. It's so blindingly obvious that only when something like this happens does it become evident. If the French offered to solve our problem for free and have a processing centre in France for the people that wanted to come here before they actually set off, and we said no, then that is proof positive that the government don't actually want to fix this problem. They want this problem in order to appeal to the mouth breathers that they think are going to get them over the line in the next general election. You know, the dingalings. Unless you can tell me otherwise, in which case you must correct me. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbott. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
So they opened their big mouths and out came talk. Talk.
Let's talk to Rose in West Devon. Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick. Well, first of all, I don't think there's anything in Sunak at all. I think he's completely vacuous. I don't think there's anything there whatsoever.
Yeah.
That just referring to something further back. And please keep off Twitter. It's doing your head in, Nick.
It is doing my head in, yes. I may have mentioned this last week, but I looked at somebody else's Twitter feed and it was just lovely. It was just full of positive things from positive people.
Well.
And it was just one nice thing after the next. And mine is just this soup of despair.
Yes. Well, I think, it's so easy to fall into that, though, isn't it? So, don't let's enhance it. I mean, I'm sick to death of everything. I'm fed up with it all.
But anyway, I was going to say it's just 2 or possibly 3 points, if I can, if I may, as Ellie would say.
Yes.
Agree with you about this Lee bloke. I think it was a set-up, because I think they knew that some refugees had panicked at the sight of this thing they were to go into. I would have done claustrophobia, you see.
Oh, the prison boat.
Or whatever, yes, yes. So on cue, when they do that, they wheel out Lee to express horror at the ingratitude with expletive,
yes.
giving our good, righteous, upright, callous citizens every excuse to say how dare they and hurl abuse at refugees thenceforth.
Yeah, anyone that's
of course, you see,
all of those people that have got the Union Jack right next to their name on Twitter, those people.
Oh yes, I would think so. Yes. And, I mean, somebody virtually said this, somebody in charge, that when people are destitute, I mean, I remember this when I was moving. Oh, well, you're lucky to have a roof over your head, said somebody. You know, it doesn't matter what it is as long as it's a roof. There's this attitude. When you're very down, then your expectations, you know, you mustn't have any expectations. And that's what they're doing to people, including refugees. May I continue with... I was faffing around in the house the other day.
Faffing?
And faffing, yes. Yes.
I hope you drew the curtains.
Sorry, it gave me a bit of a shock there. I faffed about and thinking at the same time, you know, thinking and faffing, you know. But it's not funny, really, is it? But you've got to laugh. And I thought... Seriously, I thought there is nothing like the power of kindness. And I'll give a small example, and merely touching on it in passing. You were once kind to me on the phone. And it has an immense power. And there's not a lot of it about. And those people in that refugee centre attempted to offer kindness to young, unaccompanied arrivals. And that creature strove to ensure that distressed, displaced youngsters would not be comforted, would remain distressed by blotting out the welcoming paintings or pictures. This is an act of pure malevolence. It goes against all fundamental human morality, and it cannot get worse than that.
But I don't think it was...
It can be as bad, but it can't be worse.
Right, I don't think that that painting over the murals was aimed at those kids. It wasn't aimed at making it a less welcome place. It was specifically aimed at the people that the Tories imagine are going to vote for them in sufficient numbers to win them the next general election. The worst of us.
I think it comes to the same thing, because that's the result it's going to have, isn't it? This person knew that these things would be comforting to these people and got rid of them.
Yeah, but the reason for them to get rid of them is not to make it less pleasant for the kids. Well, it does to me. It's more cynical than that. I mean, if you're just being evil and you don't want kids to have any kind of pleasure, that's one thing. But if you're pretending to do that just in order to get on side the gullibles in the electorate who you think might actually love that, well, that's worse to me.
It is in a way, isn't it? Yes.
I think it completely is worse, because, I mean, the one thing is just you being sort of a mean person.
It's a lot worse than mean, Nick.
Well, I know. I stopped myself from saying evil, because I call certain elements evil quite a lot, and I wonder if that's perhaps going too far, but I'm not sure that it is.
Well, it loses its validity after a bit. That's the trouble. Yeah.
That's correct, yeah. But it's actually worse than that. It's just so... cynically manipulative. It's like, what would the least nice of us like the most? And we're going to do that just to see if it works. You know, just and to hell with who it affects, because this is a game that we're playing here, and it's called politics.
But you see where this leads us in terms of kindness. You know, the idea that it simply doesn't exist any longer.
Well, it's worse than that, though. It's the concept of kindness is now wokeness. If you are concerned, if you're concerned for the welfare of others, then you are a lefty woke. You're part of the lefty wokerati.
So really, for want of a better word, the evil rules, doesn't it?
It's won.
That's what's in charge.
It has won.
It's won. Have I got a second to?
Yeah.
Not unless I've interrupted your flow.
No, go on.
Well, I've been wanting to say this. There was a chap who rang. It was Bedfordshire or Hertfordshire some weeks ago, and said to you, he hesitantly. No, he didn't say he hesitantly, but he did in fact hesitantly suggest that we all post hundreds of little boats to Sunak, so he can put them all in his pool and stop them. And I just thought that was the most wonderful satire. And then I thought, I'm sorry to bring it to this point, but you won't like it. I thought, in King Lear, there's a character that says, it's not the worst when we can still say this is the worst. The worst returns to laughter. And I've never been quite sure what that means, but maybe it means there's nothing more you can do. You know, you just have to post little boats, you know. Sorry,
well, I don't think it'll inconvenience him at all, because I would imagine. I mean, he's a man who doesn't know how to use a credit card, so I very much doubt he knows how to open an envelope. Other people will be doing that for him.
One boat, another boat, hundreds of them. It's marvellous, isn't it? Throw them all in the pool.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice thought, Rose. Keep thinking nice things.
Yes.
All right.
You too.
Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. You know, when you think that you just can't take it anymore, I just can't stand it anymore, you think. Don't imagine that this is it forever. I know it sort of gets it gets a bit you get a bit weighed down with it. I mean, it's just so negative, and the regime just seems so awful. I mean, it's like a kaleidoscope of hideousness, aren't they? One just seems to be worse than the next. And when they come on TV or on the radio, we know that they're not telling the truth, and they know that we know they're not telling the truth. I mean, you can only be fooled so many times, right? Even the stupidest among us can only be fooled, 10, 12 times? Before you think, whoa, hang on a minute, maybe they're fooling me. And you think, when is this ever going to end? This is never going to end, you think. Well, it will. Things will improve. I mean, you could say that over a long period of time, things improve incrementally. It might not improve in a great jump. You know, if there is another general election and the people who call up and say, well, of course it wouldn't be any better under Labour, would it? Because they heard somebody say that once, so they just repeat it ad nauseum without thinking about it. Well, if it's anybody other than the current regime, then we would be going in even a slightly different direction. Then that could possibly be better than where we are now. Can we at least admit that? There's the possibility, if we change direction, even slightly, it might be incrementally better for a large number of people. It's possible. Can we admit that? So we got two options. We can either stay in the room we're in, look around, this is what we've got, or we can take a chance and we can go through that door over there. Now, we've been told that it's better through there. Let's give it a go. What do you say? 0345 6060 973. On that subject, Tim says, I cannot vote for Keir Starmer because of the treatment of Jeremy Corbyn. I'll have to vote for the Lib Dems. I hope that's okay, says Tim. Well, it depends where you live, Tim. Martin says, I reckon the water on the barge is probably better quality than the stuff that comes out of our taps. And Alice says, I can tell you what can go wrong. I very nearly died of TB 70-odd years ago. To say that it was unpleasant is the least of it. It was excruciatingly painful, and I have the scars to this day. Well, don't tell Cruella de Braverman. Excruciatingly painful is her favourite emotion in others. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
You're joking.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm all out of laughs.
There's nothing funny about our current situation. Al texts, I thought I hadn't seen her doing her semi-erotic cookery programmes recently, but what on earth was she doing on the barge? And is her presence really a reason to throw them all off? Couldn't she do the catering? Says Al, who is sadly mixing up Legionnaires with Nigella. I've been suffering from Nigella for about 3 years now. I'm okay, but I just can't stop licking my fingers while gazing down the camera, that's all.
Disgusting.
Really? Sanjay says, Cruella Braverman and the rest of the Tories keep telling us how clean and safe the barge is. Maybe all 354 Tory MPs should try it out for a couple of weeks and see how they like it. And as it accommodates 500, they can take their partners and their children. I mean, they are on summer holidays at the moment. Yeah, they've decided that the country is going so well that they can afford to take 6 weeks off. Can you believe that? Sam Batch. Hello, John.
I've got to say, I can't match the previous speaker. She was so polite, well-spoken.
Yes.
I can't match that. But I'm a brutal northerner. And what I've got to say is, what's the Labour opinion of the water companies?
I don't know. What's the Conservative opinion? And that will probably be the Labour opinion.
Yeah, I think you're dead right there. I wish the Labour Party had some intestinal fortitude, and I've said it before, or some mongrel in them, or some guts.
Yeah, the thing is, John, the thing is, they're on a successful curve at the moment. So, from their point of view, why change what's working?
Well, why change? Well, have a damn opinion, for God's sake. I mean...
Do you not think that it will be... I mean, I'm so tired of hearing this. Well, never mind about the Tories. Wouldn't be any better under Labour, would it? I mean, I've heard that so many times. It's as though people are just repeating ad nauseum what they hear on some right-wing news outlets. It's just extraordinary how many times people say that, as though they've never experienced anything other than a Conservative government. It was better under Labour. There's the list of Labour achievements which have been busily undone by the Tories for the last 14 years is too long to read in a brief 3-hour show. But chief amongst which was that the NHS had the shortest waiting times and the highest rating from patients ever.
You're dead right. I've always voted Labour. I believe in Labour, but come forward. Be aggressive. When you're being interviewed on television and by these right-wing interviewers and all that kind of stuff, like on Sky and all that kind of stuff, be aggressive. Don't get spoken down to. Speak against them.
I would like a little bit more fire, but I do have to say that look at the polls. Whatever they're doing now, whether it is the country being repelled by how awful the regime is, or whether they actually quite like the idea of a change, a Labour government under Keir Starmer, whatever they're doing now is working big time. So
it's working big.
So in the short term, until the election, assuming that the poll numbers stay the same, then they should keep doing what they're doing. If you want, assuming that you want a Labour government, if you want a Conservative government, then you probably would want them to change what they're doing, because it is at the moment but so very successful, the Labour Party.
You're actually right. You're dead right what you're saying. But some things niggle at you.
Well, yes. Well, here's the thing, John. If you wait around for the perfect party to come along for them to vote for, then you're going to be waiting a very long time.
Yeah,
I think you have
did.
in the meantime, while we're waiting for that nirvana to come our way, you're going to have to pick the least bad option. Select.
Yeah, what can we do about these politicians who buy shares in companies? What can be done about these people where we clean out the government or the rules and say, this is what you do, this is what you have to do, this is how you administer yourself.
All of the things that used to be just thought of as the decent thing. Can we get back to people doing the decent thing again without having to write it down as a rule? I mean, I expect not since you-know-who barged through.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Since him, he sort of lowered the bar of decency right to the floor, so people are just stepping over it now instead of limboing under it. And we have to get back to some sort of level of decency, but it's going to have to be written down. You can't do this and you can't do that. Since since Mr. Blobby careened into our lives, all bets are off. Hey, John, I've got to go, but thanks for that. Good work. Okay. 0345 6060 973. Matt says, I hear that a third of Tory MPs now support the proposal to leave the European Court of Human Rights in order to facilitate the removal of those pesky migrants. I wonder how many of the Tory voting supporters realise that their rights will also be greatly reduced as a result of leaving. Is that the plan, maybe? Well, our rights have been greatly reduced as a result of leaving the European Union. And there's a certain element that still seem to be cheering that decision, bizarrely, even though it has almost certainly done them great damage. But again, it's one of those things that we don't mind how much damage we do to ourselves, just as long as it annoys the libs. Exactly like America. We don't care if we stay poor, just as long as some middle-class metropolitan elites don't like it. The whole world's gone insane. 0345 6060 973. Kilburn. Hello, Ellie.
Oh, hi, Nick. It might sound a bit irrelevant now because the conversation's moved on quite a lot, but I just wanted to point out about the poo in the water from Thames Water and all the other water companies. There's a corporate term for that. It's called externalisation, and they budget for it. They budget for the fines. They work it into their business plan because they know the fines are going to be less than actually cleaning up the mess, and they can just push the problem down the road over and over. Yeah, like the banks. The banks can do anything they like because they know that any subsequent fine is going to be a piddlingly small amount compared to what they can earn by ripping off their customers. And corporate fraudsters and the banking racket in the city, the traders, all the guys that, like Rishi Sunak, profited out of betting against our country, how that joker has got into power over the country he literally raked money out of because we failed financially. Well, he made a bet. He got lucky. He's just a gambler. He got lucky. I mean, they call it, hedging, or they've got these fancy terms for it, but he made a bet and he got lucky. And by that method, we're supposed to believe that he's some sort of financial genius. Well, and I think Boris Johnson, this nonsense about, I wrote 2 articles and I made a decision and blah, blah, blah. He got some of his mates in the city talking to him, and they said, if you manage to persuade so many people to vote for their own self-harm, we'll make an enormous amount of money and we'll jolly well look after you, Bodger, which is what he's depended on all his life. Well, nobody knows that the one thing followed the next, and there's certainly no evidence to that. I have a vivid imagination. Allow me my imagination. Okay. I would like to point people in the direction of a very fascinating documentary called Corporation, which explains how corporate money is made at the expense of society and individuals and people like us. And to my mind, it shows how the Conservative government have gone completely off the rails. They've simply followed a corporate strategy to its logical conclusion and just riding on the coattails simply for their own personal gain.
Well, you'd have to think that if you didn't know anything about the world and you were visiting us for the very first time, you would think that governments actually don't wield that much power because they all seem to act in the interests of a small-ish number of massive corporations. You might actually, if you were a foreign visitor, an alien from space, you might think it's actually one of maybe a dozen or so corporations that actually run the world, and that people are allowed the fantasy of self-governance by going to the voting booths every now and again to vote for the government that will then just sort of tinker with things a little bit. I mean, they won't inconvenience these massive corporations any, because those very governments rely on those corporations for their funding. So we don't run anything anymore. It's we're a sort of a corporatocracy.
Yeah, absolutely, and the people in power know which way their bread is going to be buttered once they retire. So the incentive is always, even if it's very nudge and a winkish, to create laws and sustain the status quo so that these companies can carry on raking in millions, no matter if they're ruining the entire planet. It doesn't seem to really occur to them that their own families and generations to come are going to suffer, because when there's no clean water and no clean air and no clean food growing and nothing you can do to protect yourself from the environmental damage other than go into space. The amount of gold you've got and the amount of share options you've got is not going to make a jot of difference, frankly.
Yeah, the problem with that argument, though, is that, A, people never imagine that the worst is going to happen to them, which explains all sorts of stupid human behaviour, like undertaking on a roundabout, for instance. People never imagine that is going to be something that is going to kill them, because they're very special and nothing bad will ever happen to them. And so there's that feeling that, okay, the climate might change and great areas might get flooded and people and hundreds of millions of people might be starving, but Waitrose will still be open till 8 o'clock, and I'll still be able to go in and get my Charlie Bigham's meal.
Oh, they're really that lacking in imagination. I mean, that seems to be a pandemic, a total lack of imagination based in the reality of what we're actually living with right now.
There's also short-termism. So it's this toxic combination of this feeling of specialness that nothing bad from my own actions will come back to haunt me, and also the money thing. The short-termism. If you were a government minister and you were presented with two scenarios, one in 10 years' time there's going to be catastrophic climate change, and one tomorrow when an oil company might give you personally millions of pounds in order to facilitate their profitability, then you're going to take the millions of pounds now and to hell with what might happen in 10 years.
And you're going to make sure that you are feathering your own nest by nudging laws or speaking for those corporations, whether you own shares in them or not. No. I mean, the lunacy of that woman. Oh, I often lose $77,000 pounds down the back of the sofa and forget about it for a couple of years.
Well, the explanation...
It's an everyday occurrence.
Well, yeah, I know. I mean, if I had £70,000 invested in a company, then I'd know about it. But apparently she has so much invested in so many places, she's so fabulously well off that she couldn't keep a track of it. And that's the explanation that they're going with. All right, thanks a lot, Ellie. Keep your chin up. It might never Oh, no. That's right. It already has.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Right, so what are we doing?
We are doing a radio show. Julie says, does anyone have Noah's number? He and his better half managed to keep both sexes of the whole animal kingdom afloat for 40 days. These inhumane Tories didn't manage to keep their own species afloat for 5 days. Noah's going to need a bigger boat. Let's have Tooting. Jan.
Hi, Nick. Hi. I want to thank you for keeping the spotlight on. I look forward to your show because you keep this bright spotlight and show up all these incompetencies and terrible things. This kaleidoscope, what you say, the kaleidoscope of disaster and hideousness, and
yes.
It's just getting worse. And for a while this evening, listening to you, I just going over the news. I caught up with the news quite late in the day. I just was so shocked. I felt quite speechless for a while and couldn't get my thoughts organised. But
now you know how I feel all the time.
Yeah, but you have a way of you keep above it. You keep above it, though.
Oh, if only.
Yeah, but Nick, I've especially called because it's getting worse. It's getting a lot worse now because it's quite shocked me. This is another shock to the system, yes, about what they want to do with the migrants, about using these. It's been mooted in, it's been around in the news for a while and this and that, and like Weatherfield, the RAF bases they want to use, the one in Weatherfield and Scampton. And actually I spent part of my childhood in Scampton, but leave that aside for the moment because I know what the weather's like up there in Lincoln. And but Weatherfield, so apparently it's going to be quite shocking, I think, because even the residents are really worried about it. And but we don't know how many tents that Cruella, let's call it Cruella, has already bought for this to house. I think in Weatherfield, these tents that they want to house, they want to somehow put they're only male migrants. What's happening to the women and children, that's another area we don't know about. But they want to put 1,700 single men in Weatherfield, yes, in tents.
Yeah.
And apparently the local people say, well, they're shocked about it as well. And I'm quite shocked about it because apparently I don't know much about the weather there, but they say that it's a very windy area. Weatherfield, not spelt like weather, but WETHER. I don't know what the history, it might mean. It's a very windy area. So they say it's the worst place to put a lot of tents.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, probably specifically selected for it being the worst place to put tents.
And also, for instance, and then they're saying, what about water and sewage and the electricity?
Oh, never mind about that. Details.
Listen, Nick, I have a horrible suspicion that she's looking to get them there just before winter, when it's the coldest weather, in tents. But then coming back to Scampton, I know Scampton as a child, and it's in Lincoln. It's really cold in winter. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I used to like it because it meant no school. Yeah, I liked it because there was no school when the snow just, blocked up the schools and things.
Yeah.
But to have tents in a place like Scampton in winter and put the migrants there, well, I mean, it's just cruel. I mean, it's just, it's cruel.
Yeah,
how can it work out?
But just keep in mind, it's not aimed at those people. That they're not being deliberately cruel to those personal individuals. They're just using it as an advertising campaign to get on side the knuckle draggers and the mouth breathers who the Tory party think are going to push them over the edge of victory at the next general election. They're just going for a certain element that they have their eye on. There's these sort of floating voters that they think are they can be reached by showing how nasty human beings can be.
But they're really, I mean, it's incredible. It's so incompetent. I mean, where are they? Where are they in their heads? I mean, where is she in her head? How many billions, maybe, or millions has she spent on tents?
It doesn't
already
make any difference. I mean, if each single one of those tents cost £100 million and it was sourced from one of the major donors to the Conservative Party, then none of us would be remotely surprised. So, and neither would we really object. What would happen if the news came out that each tent cost £100 million and was provided by a major donor to the Tory Party? What would actually happen in that circumstance? Absolutely nothing.
But they're doing it so secretively. That's taxpayers' money, isn't it? It's all taxpayers' money that's being spent on this, and yet it's all being done secret. What is it? Someone said about it. Some of the people in the area said. One of the people hit out saying that they're being obfuscation. obfuscation.
Obfuscation.
And secrecy and downright dishonesty.
And mendacity.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm
yes, you are
almost
speechless.
with
Yeah.
shock.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to take a couple of breaths there, Jan. Sit down, make yourself a nice cup of tea. All right. And
calm down.
Calm down, dear. All right. Thanks a lot, Jan. Yeah. Well, the thing that tells you that none of what they say about this is true is that they're saying that they want to save us money by putting the people on these boats, this Bibby Stockholm. It's a money-saving exercise. I don't have the figures in front of me. I pulled them out and I explained this last week. But unless I do, one moment. No, perhaps not. Oh well, hang on. Yeah, they say that they've hired this Bibby Stockholm in order to save us money, and they keep getting away with saying that. And there's no pushback from interviewers at all when they say that. And this is their constant refrain. They're saving us money. They're doing us a favour. The spending the taxpayers' money wisely is their top priority.
It's the country's number one priority.
Is spending our taxpayers' money well. Now, our government paid £1.6 billion for 5 migrant ships over 2 years to house 2,000 migrants for 2 years. £1.6 billion to house 2,000 migrants for 2 years. There was no competition, and the deal was done in secret. The company's shares, the company that provides these boats, an Australian company, you would have to leave the planet to get further away. Their shares jumped more than 12% on the news. So, as I did last week, let's do the maths, because this is important. The whole reason that the government are giving, apart from we're just trying to appeal to the mouth breathers, is that they're trying to save us money. Forget the part about they've created this problem in the first place by not processing claims, because most of these people, 75, 80% of those who get their claims processed are found to be legal refugees, and their claim is upheld. And then they get to work doing the jobs that we don't want to do, which are currently being not done. Yeah, never mind about training British people to pick the potatoes out of the ground or to make coffee. We don't want to do those jobs. We are doing other jobs. There is no unemployment problem in this country. There is a hiring problem. We've got a lot of jobs that ain't getting done. And these people would be precisely the kind of people that we have in history relied on to do those jobs. People that are poorer than us that come from somewhere else. So forget that part. The part that they're trying to sell it to us on, the more decent of us, is they're trying to save us money. Thank goodness that the Conservative Party is being prudent with our cash. So 1.6 billion to house 2,000 people over 2 years. Now, that's £800,000 per asylum seeker over 2 years. 1.6 billion divided by 2,000 people is £800,000 per asylum seeker. Now, that's over 2 years, which is about 730 days. So 800,000 per person for 730 days is £1,095 per night for a shared room.
What?
£1,095 per night for a shared room per person. That's what it breaks down to. To save us from the cost of a £50 a night hotel room, the Conservatives are spending £1,095 a night to stick them on a boat, while telling us that they're doing this to save us money. It costs £50 a night to put them in a hotel. It costs £1,095 a night to put them in a shared room on that boat. Or we could send them on a Disney cruise for less. There's a company called Royal Caribbean. Top of the range, superb class. This sounds like an advert now, but they're a cruise liner. So never mind about their other boats. Let's just go to the most expensive one to stay on. It's the Oasis class. The average price per person per day, if you rented their Oasis class yacht for 2 years, would work out at $205. This includes ship accommodations, ocean transport to that ship, meals, non-alcoholic beverages, and entertainment. $205, not pounds, dollars per day, as opposed to £1,095 per night to stay on that miserable prison boat. And they're saying it as though they're doing us a favour. The taxpayers' money, the prudent spending of which is their number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority, up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping it.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Now, wait a minute. I don't like that kind of talk. Now, just stop it. It upsets me.
Kevin says, with rising sea levels due to global warming, I think the bivvy is the best place to be. See? Braverman has their safety first and foremost. She's lovely, says Kevin. Steve texts, the Tory next big destruction of our rights is the big push to get out of the ECHR without letting the people know what they'll miss, just because they can't stop the boats like King Canute couldn't stop the waves. Yeah, well, unlike King Canute, the Tories don't really intend to stop the boats. They want the boats to keep coming, because otherwise what have they got to recommend themselves to their fans? Nothing. And if you are in a company that only includes Russia and Belarus, who in Europe have not signed up to the European Court of Human Rights, then I think you have to think twice about where you are. I mean, if it's just Russia and Belarus and us, then I think that perhaps warning bells should be ringing in people's minds. 0345 6060 973. Oldbury, Ranjit.
How are you, Nick?
Yes, great, mate.
Okay. You know, I wanted to talk about ECHR, yeah?
Oh, yes.
You know, when you need to clip this because, you know, people will be laughing at me today.
Mm-hmm.
In a few years' time, they'll say, well, Ranjit did predict this. You know? If we come out of the Human Rights Convention or whatever it is, yeah, you know,
yeah,
then they can enforce no elections on us. They can do whatever they want. They can say, you'll work for £2 an hour. We will not provide you anything. And all these people, yeah, who now, I mean, a few weeks ago, Boris Johnson was saying, get Rwanda done. It was like an advert, you know, when he was saying get Brexit done. But then that just fell away. I didn't even hear about it.
Three-word slogans is
get Rwanda done.
The favourite weapon of choice of an autocrat.
So now, this is in my opinion, and I've seen the direction of travel, and obviously listening to you and listening to the other people on your show. They've finally got all their ducks in a row now, and they're aiming and they're going to shoot all those ducks down, right? Because the population is so divided. I mean, with the ULEZ, with people hating immigrants, people hating the working class, the working class hating the unemployed, right? Yeah. And I think Rishi, you know, all these things about what's his name that told everybody to go and do one. Yeah, yeah, you know, use the F word. Yeah, all these are carefully choreographed.
Oh,
yeah,
it's not by accident. Yeah,
it's not by accident, right? Because there's no way that 30p Lee. I mean, what's his name in the morning calls him 30p. What's Enoch? Leenock, yeah, 30p Leenock, yeah. But even Enoch Powell never went that far. Not.
Where's he gone? Ranjit has just been cut off in his prime. He's dropped his phone into the fat fryer.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
No, can you hear me?
Yeah,
can you hear me?
I can now, yeah.
No, sorry. Okay, I'm at home now and I'm having a beer. No, the thing is, you can, the direction of...
There he goes again. Disappeared.
Hang on, I'll stand by the window. Wait. Listen, can you hear me now?
In your current condition, don't lean out of the window. Booze.
No. What it is, Nick, their direction of travel, right, has been forecasted by intelligent people like yourself and me as well. I understand it.
Well, you don't have to forecast it. We're living it right now. It's happening.
It's happening, and I tell you what, all those people who have got a little bit of working rights, we're your bosses, you're going to lose them. And the worst thing about it is, right, people running small companies with 4 or 5 people, the bosses think they're executives. You're not, mate. You're just somebody who's employing 4 or 5 people. And when these people have finished with the people that work for you, they're coming for you next. I mean, they've gone for the doctors, they've gone for the barristers, they've gone for everybody, the consultants, right? So to them, all in war, all is fair. Yeah, in love and war, all is fair. We are all targets.
You are going to need at least £1 million. If you're a millionaire, you might get away scot-free. If you're a billionaire, of course, then there's no problem, and your money is accepted everywhere. But anybody poorer than that is in big trouble, huge.
Nick, if you've got a 4-bedroom house in, say, Slough, not maybe Slough, say, towards the slightly outer end of London,
Ealing.
Your house is worth, Ealing, your house is worth £1 million, 4-bedroom detached house.
No doubt.
Yeah, right? But once you've sold that, where are you going to live? So there's lots of people now who think they're millionaires, but you're not a millionaire.
No.
All you are is that you...
Asset rich, cash poor.
Cash poor, but these people, right? You give someone a title, say, right, Nick, you are the executive now.
Wow, really?
That's it, mate. You are a little Hitler then, straight away. And that's not,
Does it have to be straight away? Can't there be like a little period of time when I'm not Hitler?
Well, the honeymoon period's going to end is when you've killed all the people below you, because then you're next in the firing line, right? And the firing line is getting higher and higher. I mean, when someone...
See, I thought that this show was edging towards dystopia before you came on. Now I'm certain that's our direction of travel.
How can Jeremy Hunt say, right? This is what he said when he was Health Secretary. These doctors are being led by their unions, right? These people who are doctors are the top 2% of the population with, brains, who are very talented, okay? I could never be a doctor, but I can probably be something else.
Yeah, but intellects are among the first in the firing line because they can see through the propaganda. So you want to get rid of them first, or you want to make it so that people don't trust them. Hence the "we've had enough of experts" line. And that is also after they've come up with the 3-word phrase, then attacking the intellectuals and they don't call them intellectuals, of course, they call them the elite. or metropolitans, or these are like code words for people who can see through our propaganda.
I mean, if you ask somebody, right, say, listen, I will take you for a slap-up meal, I'll buy you the best wine, I'll buy you everything, but let's talk about why you think Boris Johnson is good for this country, right? And these people, when I seen that, I think this was just before he resigned, he was it's like a boxing thing, I don't know, I can't remember exactly. He says, get Rwanda done. I thought, you're an idiot, mate. You are now making fools out of people. And this is how they're going to get rid of our human rights. And let me tell you, well, you know this, Nick, because you understand it, right? Our human rights, like on basic things like minimum wage, our working conditions at work, all those things are going to be erased.
Well, our rights were hard won over many years, and they can be taken away from you in an instant. You have to be On your guard at all times. Ranjit, I'm going to have to go, but thanks for that.
Okay, buddy.
Cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. John says, we'll need ID with a photograph to vote. What next? You'll only be able to mark your ballot paper with a fountain pen? Royal blue ink only, he says. Mark says, I'm not one to start rumours, but does anyone know if Nads can drive a bulldozer? Perhaps they ran out of her favourite tipple at the Crooked House and she flew into a rage.
Booze.
Devil makes work for idle hands and all, says Mark. I'm sure she had nothing to do with it. Philip Sex, Russia and Belarus are nuclear armed. The only reason they haven't nuked us is because we could nuke them back. The loony left would leave us defenseless and vulnerable, says Philip. I believe that Philip is a bot.
Absolutely.
Oh, that was the wrong one. That was completely the wrong sound effect. Are you a robot?
Affirmative.
That makes more sense. A little bit more sense. Not much, but a bit. Heston, Isaac.
Oh, hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yes, right. Sorry, I snoozed off there.
Wake up!
Right. 3 quick things, right? Number 1, okay, I love your show so much, right, that it's now, that on a Saturday night, it's now pushed Match of the Day into second place for me, right?
Has Match of the Day started again?
Tomorrow.
Is it?
Yeah.
God, it comes around too quick, doesn't it? I mean, the brief summer just goes in an instant.
Absolutely. And the women's football show into third, so there you go.
Right.
Yeah, very good show. Right. Now, the main point I want to make, all the money they spend on the migrant situation, I mean, you mentioned some figures a moment ago, like 1.6 billion. Now, every week, this government come up with some crackpot idea of some sort. I can't keep up every week.
Yeah.
So here's a crackpot idea for them. Okay, all the money they spend on the migrant situation, like the 1.6 billion pounds, they should take a cue from America and build a wall in the middle of the English Channel.
That's a good idea.
I'm building a wall. Okay, I'm building a wall. I'm building a wall. Okay, I'm building a wall.
Right.
Yeah, we should build a wall.
Absolutely, build a wall to stop the dinghies. By the way, then boats, they're dinghies,
right?
And the dividends they get from maintaining the wall and building the wall, they can invest in their offshore accounts. Like the Channel Islands, the Cayman Islands, the Isle of Man, and the Virgin Islands. Yeah,
right.
So there's a crackpot idea for them.
Okay, that is an excellent idea. Once you build a wall, there's no way of getting through it.
If there's a concrete wall in front of you, go through it, go over it, go around it, but get to the other side of that wall.
You just got to get to the other side of that wall, that's all. So speaks a wall expert. Thanks a lot, Isaac. Excellent ideas. 0345 6060 973. Kieran texts, because many older people become gaga, surely we Well, that's not offensive. He says, surely we should have an upper voting age limit too. He says, we don't have a test to stop younger people voting, but we do have a lower age limit. It's only fair. Let's say nobody over the age of 75 should be able to vote. Hands in the air, who agrees with that? Now, hands in the air, who doesn't? Well, that's overwhelming.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was the wrong one. I wasn't paying attention. It should have been...
Come on, we're running late.
Come on, we're running late. 0345 6060 973. Belsize Park. Judy.
Hello.
Judy.
Can I ask you a question?
What's your query, miss?
My query is, this HMS floating disaster that is presently now being evacuated because of the Legionnaire disease, do we get a refund for hiring it? It's a very serious question. Do you not laugh? Your glamorous assistant thought it was a reasonable question.
Well, he is no judge. I'm expecting the answer is...
No.
No, very sorry, but that money has gone.
But your lovely gentleman that is on, they take it in turns doing all the legal stuff in the week where people are phoning in and they're giving advice about what you can claim back and small claims court and all of that. Well, I'm sorry, if we have hired this barge, or whatever it is, should it not be fit for purpose?
Well, yes. Now, we don't know that the Legionnaire's disease globules, which is the correct term, by the way.
All right.
The globules.
Globules.
We don't know that it was like that on arrival. It might have been, us what did it. I've got no idea. I have absolutely no clue whatsoever. But I would assume that whatever money that you give in tax duty, you might as well set fire to for all the good it'll do you.
But this Legionnaire thing, it comes from globules, which sounds revolting, but they must take time. But the globules couldn't have...
Oh, stop saying that.
They couldn't have formed in the time... How long has it been here off our coast?
I don't know, is the answer to that question.
Are you going to do some research for tomorrow night, please?
I most certainly will do nothing of the sort.
But I've paid for it, you've paid for it, every single one of your listeners has paid for it.
Yeah.
It's now been abandoned, as I understand.
Well, I don't know about abandoned. I don't think they've called it all off. They might give it a little wipe over, they'll smear it with a damp cloth.
Well, who's going to pay for that?
You?
This is a very disappointing phone call for me.
Yeah.
Because it must take time for this to build up, mustn't it?
I have no idea about how long it takes for Legionnaire's disease globules to actually form, to coagulate. Oh, God, that sounds even worse.
Could a scientific type person who knows what they're talking about, because I don't, could they maybe on your programme tomorrow night, could somebody phone in and tell us?
Yeah, explain about the coagulating globules.
And more important, well, not more importantly, because human life is more important, but if you buy something that is filthy it should be if you buy a fridge, it's nice and clean inside.
Yeah.
If you buy a new cupboard, if you buy a new microwave.
If you buy a new fridge, you have to be absolutely certain that it is not infested with Boris Johnson.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
Anything you buy is meant to be fit for purpose and not filthy.
Correct.
Right. We need answers.
Right. We also need to know who recorded the album Coagulating Globules. I think it was in the early 1970s. I'm pretty sure it was Genesis. Peter Gabriel Genesis, of course, not the other one, not the other chap whose name I forget. What's his name?
I don't know. Before I hang up, can I tell you that I am well over the age that you're going to stop me voting?
Right. Well, don't even think about doing that from now on, Judy. Promise me.
I'm not promising anything.
All right. Thanks a lot. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, it was Peter Gabriel and what's the other guy's name? I prefer the other guy. I mean, I know that's not a fashionable thing to say, but Peter Gabriel's Genesis was a bit, I don't know, it was a bit English twee. I preferred the other bloke, whatever his name is. Duke is my favourite Genesis album. And I think you will find that is an excellent choice. Brent, Barry.
Hi.
Barry.
Simple thing.
I am not.
I know you're not. I love listening to you. And I support what you've done as a political analysis.
Oh, that sounds way too complimentary. It's just me gassing on, filling time is what I'm doing.
Oh, you're right. We've got a very simple system of government, which is binary, yes-no type system. And the only consequence of that, because it's about 40 years out of date, is that what we only get then is voting people out of office. Whereas what we should have been doing is altering the binary system to add to it, to allow it to be a broader... None of us make decisions without considering 3 or 4 things together. We don't just say, oh, is it right or wrong? And the only way we do the governing side of things is we either believe in things or we either believe in people. That's one aspect. And the second part, we only believe in decisions that are born out of listening to people in the locality or authoritarian top-down decision-making. Once you've worked out those 2 options, you then know where your politics are.
Right. Well, we are a top-down decision-making kind of country, aren't we?
That's what binary system means.
Well, I thought you were referring to we only really have a choice between 2 parties, 2 leaders, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, and the system is rigged to put the...
Binary basically means it's like a yes-no system.
Well, I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
Well, it does mean in what you've just described, which is you have 2 parties and you only choose between 2 parties. That isn't the truth of life.
Well, it's not the truth of our voting system either. People choose a lot of different parties, and yet the Conservative Party, because the system is rigged in their favour, win again and again and again with less than... They get 100% of the power with less than 50% of the votes, over and over and over again.
Thank you. But that is what binary voting means. It means that the voters only get an option of voting people out of office.
No, I don't understand.
Yes, it's true. You go back over the last 20 elections, and I promise you'll come up with that answer.
But we've had the Tory party for the last 3 or 4... I can't remember how many it is now. 4 elections in a row. So we haven't decided to vote them out of power.
As people in the news media, what you do is you will pose questions on the basis of, do you believe in this or that? And that goes on regularly, particularly with, would you spend your money on this or would you spend your money on that? Nothing more than that. That's what the conversation is that happens at the moment in news media and so on. And your analysis is correct, in my view. My opinion would be that your opinion is that they're placing people in a position where they will only vote to stop Labour being elected.
Right. I must admit that even though you did explain it quite slowly for even someone as dim as me to keep up, I'm not entirely sure I've grasped your point. But if you are saying that we have a binary system in which only one of 2 parties can win, to the detriment of the nation, then I'd agree with you 100%, yes. Particularly as, for 2/3 of the time since the Second World War, the Tories have been in power and have had 100% of the power, but have had less than 50% of the people supporting them. In fact, it's always been more people support left-leaning parties than support right-leaning parties in this country. The left have got a load of choices they can make. They can go with the monster raving loony party, or they can go with the Greenies, or they can go with the Lib. I'm trying to find their button. Wait a minute, I'll have it here in a moment. Where's it gone? It's going to be it'll be worth it. I can't believe I've lost it. Maybe somebody has taken it. There it is. So you got the Groovy Greenies, and you got the Lib Dems. Boring. There it is. It took a while. And then, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party. I got that round the wrong way. But it's Labour, the Greens and the Lib Dems. That splits the left vote. And between them, they always get more than the Conservative Party, which is the only party, really, that you've got if you're on the right. And so you get the impression that we're a right-wing country. Left-leaning people, they think, oh, God, it's just so awful, but I'm trapped in a right-wing country. You're not. It's just that the system always seems to bubble the Tories to the top, despite the fact that they have fewer people who are in their camp, fewer people of that mindset. There's more people that lean to the left in this country that lean to the right. It's just that the system that we have prefers the right. If we can fix the system, then it would be better for the most of us. Over to you, Keir Starmer. 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 Over to you, Keir Starmer.